Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. Thanks for joining us here on one of the world's biggest gun talk programs as we chat with the interesting folks who make up the world of shooting. Well, that interesting folk today is Roy Huntington, my unofficial co-host, and we're talking about something that is kind of inspired by John Taffin's Perfect Packing pistol. And Roy's been doing some work on a little project at home, and he said, why don't we talk about perfect packing pairs? Now, ever since the 1870s, cowboys have been matching up their pistol with their rifle in terms of calibers. So Roy's still doing the same thing today. So let's catch up with Roy Huntington as we talk about perfect packing pairs. Hey there, Roy.
Hey, but it always makes me want to say, hey there, hi there, ho there, we're as happy as can be.
Well, we are, because we're in America, and we got guns and
Lord,
the ability to shoot. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's colder than you know what here. It was 0, which means there's no temperature whatsoever. It was 0 this morning, and I know you guys are pretty close to what we're experiencing, but I know you've been out shooting, so you came up with a great topic for the podcast today. We're going to talk about, I love alliteration, perfect packing pairs. Did I pop hard enough on the P's there? So,
which we have to be careful about, because some people may think perfect packing pairs are something else. But
when I was thinking about a graphic for this,
talking about firearms today.
We're talking about firearms, not fruit or any other object.
Anything that's unfirearm. Yeah.
So, well, how cold's it been there? You've been out shooting, so apparently it's not that bad.
Today we're having a bit of a heat wave. It's about 40 out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, mostly because the wind stopped.
Yeah.
But it's like when the wind kicks up, it's that 40 degrees feels like 20.
Wow.
But yeah, we were down in single digits a week or so ago, and then we had about 8 inches of snow, so that's all right. I always tell people, keeps the riffraff away.
Well, and it allows you to go out and shoot your perfect packing pair. And to start off the discussion, you've got a kind of an interesting setup there, and tell folks about it.
Well, I was trying to think about, we've been doing the perfect packing pistol and perfect plinking, and all that stuff. And so I just got to thinking about it, and it's like, what would be, and then I don't know why it came to me. I said a perfect packing pair. Initially, I was thinking about a pair of pistols. Right?
Yeah.
So like a big gun and a little gun, right? Or something like that. And then I got to thinking, well, no, actually, the original perfect packing pair would have been like a Winchester 1873 and 4440 and a Colt single action Army in 4440.
Exactly.
Circa 1876, out in the plains. And we kind of have lost track of that, I think. The lever gun guys seem to really like the idea they can shoot 357 lever gun, and then they've got a revolver to shoot that and stuff. But I don't think it really gets talked about as much. And so people automatically think, well, if I have a handgun, okay, I'm going to shoot out to whatever, 20 yards, right, with iron sights, the average guy. And then I have my rifle, even though it's a pistol caliber cartridge, for instance, and then I'm going to shoot out to 50 yards. But I don't think anybody or few people actually do that and compare the two.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I got this new Charter Arms 3-inch 32 H&R Magnum, and then I've got that single shot 32 H&R Magnum pistol rifle that I built, which you shot many times here. And then I have a 357 single shot rifle that I just finished not too long ago, and a single action, the Taylor Stallion, that one that I customized and put an adjustable sight on it. And I thought, well, that's a pair, right? And then I have that 4440 single shot rifle that I built, and then I have a Ruger Blackhawk that Hamilton Bowen chambered a 4440 cylinder for. So I ended up with 3, that are they're a little bit more interesting than like 22s or something like that.
Yeah.
So we ended up with a 32 H&R Magnum revolver and a single shot rifle, a 357 or 38 special, which is what I shot it in, a single shot rifle and a single action revolver, and then of course the 4440. And I thought, well, rather than just guessing, let's actually shoot them and see what happens.
What a concept.
I know. And I think that doesn't go on enough in our industry, and I think amongst shooters. There's so many people just assume things. Like the other day, I did a video on that Bronco, that silly little skeleton-looking rifle.
Yeah.
Right? And so I cocked it, and it was clear, and I clicked it to show what the action was, right? Well, you would have thought I was out kidnapping and babies.
Oh, no.
I know, because they said, oh, my God, only a FUD would dry fire a 22. Oh, didn't your grandfather ever tell you that, and all, on and on and on and on, right? And so I answered a few of them, and I said, actually, a little bit of dry firing with a 22 doesn't hurt a darn thing.
Yep.
The really old guns, from the teens and 20s and 30s and 40s, I said sometimes there was enough issue with metallurgy that they could cause a problem. You would indent the breech face, or you would round off or break the firing pin. And I said, but with modern steels and fits and finishes and stuff, I mean, I have a Ruger Super Single 6 that I bought in 1968, or my mom bought it for me, right? I probably dry fired it 50,000 times.
Wow.
And it still works just fine. But anyway, that's it. People they heard that you can't dry fire at 22, so then that's what they tell everybody.
Right.
They become incensed about it. And so I think in this situation, people just assume that the handgun will be good for out to here and the rifle will be good for out to there. But they don't always test that like that,
Yeah.
And especially when you're dealing with rifle sights, open sights. That's a lot different from a scope or a red dot sight. So that's where we're at. And I would like you have to be thinking about what is your perfect packing pair. Be thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do is I'm going to show and tell real quick about my successes, I think, with the 32. Now, for those of you who can't see, if you're listening to this as a podcast, my apologies, but I'm holding up targets and we're going to talk about them. The first one is the Charter Arms. Now, I was shooting a 3200. Well, actually, it's a 98 grain full target wad cutter that I load at about 800 or 800 to 850 feet per second. So I shot that at 20 yards with the Charter Arms, and I ended up with a solid 1-inch group until I lost my mind and I had one flyer. So you can see. So, okay, what did we learn there? I learned that the Charter Arms is a pretty accurate little gun, and I was a little surprised by that. I think the difference between a 2-inch barrel and a 3-inch barrel sometimes can be significant, not because the longer barrel is more accurate, but because you have a longer sight radius, so you can hold more precisely. Like what they say in that movie, aim small, hit small.
Yeah.
It's that. And if you have a longer barrel, it can help you to do that. So that's certainly a rabbit gun, maybe even a squirrel gun, who knows. Then I took my single shot 32 H&R Magnum rifle, and we moved a target out to 50 yards. Now, people toss that around sometimes. Oh, you should shoot that at 50 yards. But have you ever done it? I mean, because that's pretty far away.
Yeah.
With iron sights. That's why people say, oh, I shoot my single action and I shoot 1-inch group at 50 yards. It's like, yeah, well, I'd really like to see that. And so what we ended up here was about, I'm going to round it up to about 1.5 inches. And it's well centered because I have the gun zeroed for 50 yards. And so that really started to cement this concept of a perfect packing pair, because I'd be comfortable with this revolver out to 20, 25 yards. At 50 yards, I know I would not have shot that group.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what it would be. Plus, it's got a glow, those green fiber optic front sights, which if you're in the sunshine, to me, it's just this big burst of lime green out front. You can't hold it fine or anything. And so So I thought then the concept is right, and maybe all those old cowboys in the Old West weren't wrong. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. You know,
Well, go ahead and finish.
well, I was going to say because a lot of people laugh and they say, "Well, it's not a rifle if it's a pistol caliber cartridge." And it's like, well, I think it just depends on what you want to call something. I mean, let's call it a wrench.
Yep.
Right? You know, this wrench will allow you to shoot your pistol ammunition more accurately out to 50 or 100 yards.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, I remember very vividly where I was. I don't remember what gun it was, but the first time I fired a 357 lever action rifle, I was shocked at the recoil. I thought, well, I've fired 30-30s, I've done 444s, you know, I've 35 Remington. This will be nothing. Oh, hey, whoa, how about that? You know, so it's not a replacement for the 4570, but boy, by getting that longer tube, it punches above its weight class, in my opinion. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's something that I forgot to talk about is the fact that the velocity difference, it was like 740 out of the Charter Arms in 32, and it was almost 900 feet per second out of the rifle. And so there is that. And so even if you go back to the 1873s, you know, 4440, they used to load things pretty hot in those days with the black powder loads.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't little sissy loads. And I mean, an original 45 Colt load was like 900 feet per second.
Right.
I mean, that was pretty substantial. And so, but even then, you shoot that same 40 load out of a rifle and you're chasing 1,100 feet per second or something. And so, you know, do you have center fire, you know, rifle power? No. But gosh, I really like the fact that it's a way to deliver your handgun ammunition more accurately out there at more of a distance.
Yep.
So, and I know a lot of people would say, well, why don't you just have a 30-30 then and carry a 38, you know, special revolver? It's like, well, I mean, where I am here on my property, I don't always need a 30-30, you know.
Yep.
But a 32 Magnum that I could shoot 50 yards and hit a coffee cup, well, that's a pretty useful tool.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that was one of the topics. We'll kind of take a sidetrack here for just a second. Why the 32? We've talked about this before, and we always get the mail. You know, why would you, an outdated and sense, you know, talk about why you really like that cartridge.
Well, you know, part of it is I'll be honest with you, it's age. You know, I don't enjoy shooting heavy recoil, loud, you know, kind of obnoxious, expensive guns anymore unless I have to. And I scored like a huge number of 32 H&R Magnum rounds for a song. And I mean like 4,000 or 5,000. And I didn't really have a gun that shot it.
Yeah.
And it was like people who buy a holster, but you don't have a gun that fits the holster, then you have to buy a gun. You know, but
I've never done that, Roy.
No, yeah, I've never done that either. So, but in this situation, I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, you know, 32, that's not a big deal, right? I mean, people talk about 327s. I shot some 327 Magnums, and frankly, to me, they were a lot of bluster and a lot of muzzle blast and I just was not that interested in it. You know, I think a solidly loaded 38 Special could do just about everything it could do. And so I went ahead and built this funny little single-shot 32 H&R Magnum rifle. And I used an old Rossi 410 receiver, and I got a British 303 rifle barrel because it's the proper bore size, 311 bore. Anyway, I just figured it all out. And, you know, I scratched my head enough and got this rifle together and got it to work. Well, then I started to shoot it. And I was chronographing these handgun defensive loads, and they were like 1150 out of the 1200 out of a rifle barrel. And by that time, I had gotten a Ruger single action in 32 H&R Magnum. And so I shot the same loads out of there, and they were like 840. And I thought, well, good Lord, you know, I mean, 100 grain bullet at 1100 feet per second, we're getting pretty serious there.
Yeah.
And especially because this rifle was really accurate, as you could see from that target I showed a minute ago. And that was with iron sights. And it outshot 38 specials and 357s that I've shot that distance. So I thought, gosh, maybe there is something to all this kind of a thing. And so since then, I've gone on and gotten another half dozen 32 handguns and, different things like that. And I got a 32 H&R Magnum barrel for my contender. And, man, talk about a laser beam. I was going to shoot it with iron sights. And I shot with iron sights, and I thought, boy, this thing's really shooting well. And so I scoped it, and, it literally shoots one hole at 25 yards. And an inch, it means I haven't been shooting very well at 50 yards with the scope. So there's something just inherently accurate about them. And, with the little guns, like the little Charter J-frame sized guns, it holds 6 shots as opposed to 5 shots. This new Charter I just held up a minute ago holds 7. My gosh, what is there not to like?
Yeah. And I don't want to belabor this point, but I know the kind of comments we're going to get because we look at them, Roy more so than I, but we try to review all the comments. And the beauty of what we're talking about, if you're going into a hostile village where the natives are going to try and scalp you, I wouldn't necessarily take a single shot unless that's the only thing you have. What we're talking about is something we enjoy doing, and it provides versatility. And these single shot rifles, first of all, are fun. We've talked about that a lot, but they're lightweight. They're extremely reliable. So it's kind of an adjunct to your pistol. A pistol you carry because it's convenient to carry firepower. And whatever your might confront, whether it be a rabid dog or an angry grizzly or anything in between, it's nice to have that pistol. But when you add that single shot rifle, it increases that versatility. You can reach out and touch something at much greater distances. Plus, we've talked about the velocity increase, so the increase in power of that round. But I know we're going to get some of those comments about, well, that's dumb, and if I was going out to walk around the bush, I'd have an AR-15 or a squad M240. Yeah, I agree. I not only want guns, I want my friends with guns. But if you're just out there enjoying yourself or maybe doing a little shooting or plinking, just adding a single shot rifle or any kind of rifle really, but here we're talking about single shots. It's a wonderful adjunct to give your pistol increased versatility. Did I hit that? Right.
Yeah, well, you're right. And I use single shot rifles because I like them and I built them. But there's no reason why, you couldn't have a lever gun in 357 and a revolver in 38 357, or a single action in 45 Colt and a lever gun in 45 Colt. All that is the same. It's fine. Around here on my property, if I have that little 32 H&R single shot I made, it weighs 3.5 pounds. It's 30 inches long. You almost put it in your pocket. And there is no dirt clod out to 50 yards that's safe from me.
That's funny.
And I think that's mostly what I'm doing. We're just goofing off and having some fun. And I learn things during the process. I think in reality, honestly, if you had the fantasy thing happen where, oh no, I'm flying my light plane in the bush in Alaska and I crash, and the only thing I have is my single-shot 32 H&R Magnum rifle, well, I think if you keep your wits about you, you're going to do just fine. Don't stop the charging, grizzly bear, but you're going to be well-fed and you'll be protected. And, and a box of 50 rounds will last you for quite a while. So this isn't so much, I think, about what is the best perfect packing pair.
Right.
But I think I want people to think about it. I did learn, though, that, for instance, I have a 38 special. I did a video about it. It's a Taylor's & Company. They call it a Stallion. It's a 7/8 size single action 38 special. It's a really cool little gun. Well, I slicked it up and did the action, recut the muzzle crown, and put adjustable sights on it and all that. Well, I loaded it up with these 38 special wad cutters that I've been loading lately, and I shot it at 20 yards, And that's about 1.25 inches, I think, if you can't see the target. Well, gosh, this little 7/8 size single action 38 special shooting wad cutters shoots it's essentially a little more than 1 inch. And with adjustable sights, that means you can regulate it and center it correctly. And so suddenly you have a really useful tool here. This is something that you really could go squirrel hunting with, or something like that, jackrabbits, or who knows what. But then I built a single shot 357 rifle, and I did the same thing, and I pushed it out to 50 yards. Now I will say it has a red dot sight on it, which I was experimenting with, and I'll be honest with you, I just cannot shoot as precise at distance with a red dot. I mean, because you've got that 3 mil or whatever 4 mil red dot, and at a certain range, you're kind of covering up the whole target. And I think that's what the problem was with this, because I'm looking at about call it a 2-inch group with a flyer. But that was, I think, mostly because on this particular target, my red dot happened to just pretty much perfectly cover the whole target. So I was able to put the circle of the red dot in the circle of the target, kind of. But I don't want red dot people to be mad at me. It's not about that. I mean, I did hit the target. You can see that. But I think if you have a rifle that can shoot, and I think this rifle is going to be a shooter, and I think you put precise iron sights on it, or maybe some low power scope, there you go. But we did it again. So we have a really effective little handgun that you can reach out to 25 yards or 30 yards or something like that. And then if you have a little rifle of some kind, like you say, a lever action rifle, who knows what kind. Ruger, I think, still makes a bolt action 357 rifle. Which I had one time, and gosh, it was really interesting. It's just really versatile. But if you have that, then you've just really expanded your envelope from 20 or 25 yards out to 100 yards.
Yep. And I was going to say, circle back, comment on something. I believe either the biggest or one of the biggest grizzlies ever taken was taken with a 22. So
Magnum. Yep.
Yeah.
I know that story, and it was like in the 50s.
Yes.
It was soon after the 22 Magnum. She had a lever action 22 Magnum.
Yep.
And she was in Alaska, and it charged at her. She shot it. The rifle held 9 rounds or something like that, and she shot all 9 rounds. Shot it 9 rounds, and it died. And I just went, well, there you go.
Not the gun I would want to face a charging grizzly, but she got it. But no, if you're ready for the big reveal, I've been thinking about this. What would my perfect Packin pair be? And I got to admit, I've actually done this a lot. And for the life of me, I'm having trouble thinking of gun models. But I'll tell you, we'll put a little drum roll in here. My perfect Packin pair would be a Ruger Wrangler and one of the 22 lever actions. And the reason I say that is because back here in the East, when you're out walking around the National Forest or whatever, or the back 40, we don't have bears to speak of. Probably the worst you're going to run into is an angry coyote, and a 22 is, especially a multiple shooting 22, will handle most of your coyote problems. And it's light, it's inexpensive, they're fun. I love my Ruger Wranglers. I've got a whole safe full of them, including a couple that Roy has customized. And is that what I think you need to carry out west in bear country or lion country or any of that? No. But if you just are walking in the woods and want to take a gun with you, which you should, I think that's around here, back here, and among us Eastern folks, a 22 lever and a 22 revolver are perfect and fun and enjoyable, and you can shoot a lot, you can carry a lot of ammo, and that actually fulfills kind of my role as that perfect plinking pair.
I think that's really smart. And, and I apologize. For some reason, I was thinking center fires. I didn't even really think of that,
Yeah.
And what you just made me decide to do was I need to make a single shot 22 Magnum break open rifle.
There you go.
Because how cool would that be?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do that. But you're exactly right. I think as I've experimented with these, and of course been on our land here now for 16 years, and as you drive around, and I do work on the tractor, we in our Easy Go, we go around, do chores and stuff like that. I always have some kind of a pistol with me, but it just seems like a lot of times about 40 yards away, is where that coyote, you see a flash of him, he stops and looks at you and flips you off, and then turns and runs off, and it's just a little far for your revolver.
Yep.
Yep. And I know if you're going to comment and say I could shoot that gun and I'd get him if I was there, and maybe you could. All right.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good for you. In the real world, though, that's kind of pushing it,
Yeah.
Especially with the coyote, because you've got okay, he's gone now, right? You have about that much time, and that's where the idea of having some kind of an accompanying little rifle to go with your handgun really makes pretty good sense, because it's like your world now expands from 25 yards around you to 100 yards around you.
Yeah.
And so, which means that either the dirt clods on the far riverbank are in serious trouble now, which is all part of it. I think we all like to plink, and this is kind of a perfect Packin plinking pair. You know? But I don't know. It's just it's been very intriguing for me to do this, and you really opened up I don't know why I wasn't thinking about the 22 thing, but you're so right about one of the little bird's head Wranglers in a crossbow holster that's regulated to the sights. That's really important, because I hate a gun that's not regulated to the sights. If you buy a single action, you shoot and it's 4 inches low and 3 inches to the left, and people just live with that. I can't live with that. Nope. But yeah, if you have a little rifle, especially a little short rifle, I have a little Rossi. I've had a long time. It's a 16.5-inch barrel. It's a little nickel-plated pump gun, like the old Winchester. What were they called?
Kind of the gallery guns.
Yeah, like a gallery gun.
Yeah.
What were they called? I can't remember. A little pump gun, and it's like, good Lord, I used to carry that everywhere in the desert. And unbeknownst to me, at the time, my perfect packing pair was a Browning high power and that little Rossi 22. Well, because it's like, well, gee, there's that rock over there that's 80 yards away that I'm not going to hit with my high power.
Yeah.
And so you just take your time, kind of take a shot. Oh, you missed a little bit low, and then bing, you got it. You know.
Well, and I was just thinking of something while you were talking, that if you stop and look, all survival rifles, especially those that they pack with military bailout kits and all that kind of stuff, they're all generally single shot type of rifles, because they're compact, and above all, they're reliable. So why not leverage that those advantages yourself when you're just out grooving around the hinterlands?
If you're a shooter and you have good trigger control and you have your wits about you, if you've got a good single shot rifle in 30-30, I mean, unless you're going elk hunting in the high desert or something, that's pretty much kind of all the rifle that people like us need.
Yeah.
Really. Like you say, it's a survival rifle. If in that airplane crash in Alaska, if someone said, you can have nothing or you can have this single shot 30-30. Well, yeah, it's an easy decision.
Exactly.
Well, if it works then, why doesn't it work otherwise? I know there's people, if I cover a single shot rifle in videos, invariably in some of the comments they'll say, well, that's stupid. Why would you have that when you can have an AR-15 that holds 30 rounds? And it's like apples and oranges, boys and girls. It's two entirely different things. This is for fun, and what, Brent, what do you say? Fun.
Gun and fun are only one letter apart.
One letter apart. And what we're doing today, this has all been fun. And I'll tell you what, I'll round this up with one more, because I have that 4440 that Hamilton Bowen did for me. And so here is a 20-yard group at from Arrest, of course, with Hamilton Bowen. It's a Blackhawk, and so I'll call that about 1.25 inches. I did notice that it was a little bit low, so I'm gonna have to raise the sights a little bit on that. Well, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you got a single action 4440. It's shooting I think it's a 180 at about 850. It's cowboy load, right? And so, okay, that's fine. Well, I built a 4440 rifle for it. It's got iron sights and the same Black Hills load, but I have pre-zeroed it for those iron sights. And so, we're looking at about a 2 1/4 inch group with one flyer that moves it out a little bit. And it's well centered. But what that means, though, is that I can basically shoot almost as well at 50 yards with that little rifle as I can at 20 yards with a handgun. And I think that explains it right there. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line, is that when we were talking about going to pistol caliber carbines when I was a policeman, and you guys probably did a similar thing. This would have been in the middle 80s. It was heresy. Nobody was trying to do that. And I brought a Marlin Camp carbine in 9mm into the range because I was doing a part-time range officer at the time on the police department, and all the guys were looking at it. We were just transitioning to semi-autos, so 9mm were around. Some of us had transition. I had a Sig P225, and so everyone looked at it, and it's of course just it's a camping rifle, wooden stock, and they were a bit fragile. So they said, "Well, that's stupid. Why do you have that?" And I said, "Well, there needs to be one of these in the trunk of every police car." And they said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Because they're accurate and they're easy to shoot." "Yeah, but they're not a rifle, And I said, "Well, I know they're not a rifle cartridge, and that's when I said, just consider it as a way to more accurately deliver our duty handgun ammunition. And so if you have a police shooting where somebody shoots 10 times and misses 9 times, right? Well, so we did some experimenting. So I kept that rifle there. And it was during a qualification phase where quarterly qualifications were going on. Remember, we had 2,000 officers, so there was lots of qualification going on. Well, one day we had this young gal. She was new out of the academy, and she was having a terrible time getting qualified. And so the guys are working with her and stuff like that. And I said, can I just try something right now? Because we're going to learn something. And they said, "Yeah, what?" And I said, "Watch." And so I gave her this rifle. She had never shot a rifle before, like so many of the new breed in those days, right? And I said, "Here's how it works." And you load the magazine, you pull this little handle back. I let her dry fire it a couple times. And I said, "Okay, now we're going to do the qualification again, only she's going to use this gun." Right? Okay. It was like 30 rounds or 35 rounds out to 25 yards. Well, she was almost missing the B-27 silhouette before on many shots. You know how there's the dark silhouette and then above the shoulders were bullet holes, with the white and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, I could have covered all of her shots with an 8-inch paper plate, and they were well centered. And when we were done, she turned around and she said, "Why can't we have these?"
Yep.
And the range sergeant was there, and he just looked at me and shook his head, And but I think that is the spirit of it all, And so that's really all we're doing right here. These little single shot rifles I build, they're just better ways to deliver your handgun ammunition. And so there you go. Well, tell us what you think about all this. And
exactly.
Dare I ask them to tell us what do they think their perfect packing pair is?
Yeah, since you can't submit photos, well,
right.
I guess you could. Editor at gunsmagazine.com. I would love to see.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in so much trouble. I would love to see your perfect Packin pair.
Yep.
And if it's really good, I'll share it with Roy.
Right.
And if it's really, really good, we won't share it on a future podcast.
We better end this while we still can.
Exactly. For anybody who might watch that might be our wives. So, well, Roy, thanks again. Another great topic we've covered here. We've covered a great pair of perfect packing whatever. And so it's been great fun. But appreciate you coming on the Guns Magazine podcast.
You bet. Always fun. We'll think of some other one to twist everyone's brain.
It's fun talking to Roy Huntington about perfect packing pairs. Let us know what you consider a perfect packing pair. Leave a comment down below on YouTube, or you can always reach me at editor@gunsmagazine.com. Before we go, our usual housekeeping notes. Please make sure you like and subscribe the podcast. That is very important to keep us doing what we're doing. And don't forget to check out our great sister publications, American Handgunner Magazine at AmericanHandgunner.com and AmericanCop.com. And while you're online, stop over at FMGpubs.com. And you can purchase subscriptions, John Connor's latest book, The Odd Angry Shot, Roy Huntington's Insider, books by Mike Venturino. A lot of good stuff is over there. FMGpubs.com. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of everybody that works so hard here at Guns Magazine and FMG Publications, I'm your Guns Magazine editor, Brent Wheat, reminding you yet again, now get out there and get shooting.